Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Quoted Show. I'm Lou Carlozo, the editor-in-chief of Qwoted. And for those of you who are just getting to know us, keep in mind that Qwoted has thousands of users on our platform where we link PRs, media members, and sources in ways that the media world has never before seen. We also want to thank our sponsors, Goldcast. And today on the show, we cover media topics and people who make the platform go from the world of journalism and also PRs. We have one of those people who makes the Qwoted platform go, Shelby Bridges. Shelby is the Director of User Success at Qwoted and brings a strong hospitality and customer service background to her role as Qwoted's Director of User Success. Drawing on her experience in high-touch client support, Shelby ensures that journalists, PR professionals, and experts receive exceptional service across the platform. As a member of Qwoted's leadership team, Shelby is key in optimizing processes, solving complex challenges, and developing creative strategies to enhance user engagement. Based in Montana, Shelby enjoys skiing, golfing, and rafting down the Smith River. And speaking of Montana, Shelby earned her Bachelor of Science degree from Montana State University. Shelby, welcome to the Qwoted Show.
Thanks, Lou. I'm so excited to hang out with you.
Very exciting to hang out. It's been a while since we hung out in NYC for some of the Qwoted get-togethers. I thought going into the show, and I was fascinated early on to learn about your background, which is in customer success, but very different in terms of the corporate setting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I came from fresh out of college, I came from the payroll PEO space, actually, which was, at the time, I found it very interesting. But now that I'm so entrenched in Qwoted, I'm like, oh, it wasn't that interesting. Qwoted is much cooler, much more exciting. But yeah, just a different service level offering, very unique from Qwoted. Obviously, it's more of like you pay for a service. There is very exact deliverables, which is getting people's employees paid, where on the Qwoted side, things are a little bit not as tangible, if you will, for, a paid offering and success that you see in Qwoted. And Qwoted's more of a platform where a payroll PEO service is more of this like full service model where you have, an entire support team. So it was interesting. I definitely learned a lot, leading a team there kind of all over the country, learning a lot about, different HR rules, regulations, what states you want to avoid when it comes to those things. But then really, getting a really good background in business in general, because all of your clients were across every single industry. And so you're just helping payroll and HR and all these details, but then every single industry is so specific and niche on how they have to do things as well. So it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. But then when the opportunity with Qwoted came up, I couldn't turn it down.
That is fabulous, and we are so much the better for having you here on the team. Speaking of which, there are differences in building out customer services, obviously, in the payroll PEO world versus what that is in Qwoted land. And there is also a difference between outsourced human-based service versus Qwoted itself. There is something involving technology and a majority free setting. Maybe you could help us understand that and why it's so important to driving the Qwoted experience.
Yeah, it is really interesting. It's like I said, payroll PEO, we had very tangible metrics and things that we had to meet in order to deliver the customer experience. And that customer experience was based on your team engaging with you, where moving over to a tech company and a tech platform, that customer experience, it involves several things, but the majority of it being the technology. So while we have a lot of real humans here helping people to understand the technology, a big piece of how somebody views their success is how easy they're able to navigate a platform and how easy they're able to connect with journalists and do all these things. So it's been an interesting learning curve to not just be able to be kind and nice and do all these things for customers and say, great, they had a great customer experience, because there's so many things that touch points in different areas of that experience throughout them signing up for Qwoted that we have control over, but not necessarily like a support team has control over. So helping to troubleshoot, find issues, things that people are running into, that's all very, very unique. And then at the same time, we majority of our service offering is free. And so how do you deliver a great customer experience when people don't necessarily pay for something? Because you still want them to learn how to use it. You want them to have a lot of success, but you do have to prioritize the people that pay, and you want to make sure that they're also having a lot of success and fully understand how to use it. So making sure that you have resources, things in place for free users, and then that slowly rolls them ideally into more of a paid model or a paid offering where they do get a more hands-on, tangible like team that they get to work with, get feedback, get advice, get all the education from. So how can you kind of sprinkle that in throughout the free experience, but then give somebody all of that when they're moving into paid? So it's fun. It's fun. It's an interesting challenge. We see it every day where people are like, hey, I would love to test out the service for free. And it's like, hey, you get the service for free. And so people forget that, they're like, oh, I want to sample the paid subscription for free. And it's like, this is the experience, So it's making them realize that we are just letting them have at it. You have at Journalists, you have all this stuff without giving us a dime. We want to make sure that you can do that. We want to make sure that it continues to be free for some people who it doesn't make sense to pay for. So kind of continuing to offer that to them and still build a great reputation and a great experience throughout navigating the platform too.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because when I have talked to people on LinkedIn who have reached out to me in my Qwoted capacity, I say to them, it's free. And they're like, well, what's the catch? It's free. Well, what are you trying to get me to do? It's free. Have you used it? No, but there's got to be a catch. Use it and find out how valuable it's going to be to your work. We recently, I think it was a year ago, had an experience where we onboarded a person who was very particular about what they wanted to get out of Qwoted, but started, I believe, as a non-paying person. Maybe you can walk us through what you did in that situation, or what you do in general. Somebody comes to Qwoted and you introduce yourself and you're trying to make that experience successful and work out really well. I mean, success is in your title. What kinds of things are you doing? Take us through what an introduction is like and what you're doing after that first introduction is made.
Yeah. I mean, from a free standpoint, there's so much value in Qwoted and being in a free account where, your profile is out in the network and journalists can come directly to you just based on your expertise, based on your profile. So I think that's something compared to different tools and different services, is that you do actually have to represent yourself, just like I would on LinkedIn, right? Like if you came to add me on LinkedIn, Lou, and you didn't have a profile photo, you didn't have employment, you didn't have any of these things, and you're like, I want to be your friend on LinkedIn, I'd be like, who is this guy? How is he associated to anything that I'm doing? Why does he want to be my LinkedIn friend? And so I try to educate people as much as possible that Qwoted's the same way. Like if a journalist is going to engage with you, they want to know why they want to engage with you. They want to know why they want to respond to you. And so taking that time to build out your media resume, if you will, to give some more validity and credentials to yourself as you're getting in front of journalists, getting in front of publications, it's huge. And it's all free, right? Like it's just, hey, I'm just putting myself out here into this network. I'm telling journalists that I'm available. I can speak on XYZ topics. That is all part of the experience. And so I think so many people don't realize that something so simple like just putting in information in your profile makes a huge difference. Also, from our selfish side of things, more information in your profile allows us to surface opportunities to you that are a good fit. So the more Qwoted knows about you through your profile, the more we can send you an email alert to say, hey, there's hundreds of opportunities in Qwoted each and every day. Oftentimes, these are not going to be relevant to things that you want to see, but there's this one that's very specific that what you want to see. It matches your expertise perfectly. you should log in and you should pitch it. So that way you can run your business day by day. You can, do all of the regular things that you're doing. You're not sitting in Qwoted just waiting for something to come up. We can say, hey, this thing's here, you should jump in and pitch it. So I think that's the biggest thing, is get those immediate alerts set up so you can still continue your day-to-day processes as a business owner, whatever you're doing. If you have time to contribute and the right thing comes up, you can jump right in and do it. But also just put yourself out into the network, put yourself out there as an expert, a relevant person that might be a good fit for a journalist, so they can just come directly to you whenever they have a story that's a good fit.
Yeah, and then there is that phase two that will happen, right? And the incredible thing about what you're describing, and by the way, audience, I'm going to describe this as someone who was a user myself way before I came on board at Qwoted, is that really the service sells itself. You're getting so much value out of it that the next natural question is, oh, okay, I'm going to pay for this and get something more out of it. But I've always found that when you talk to people in the media, PR side, whoever it is, they tend to have a little bit of trepidation whenever they have to pay for anything, even if that thing is great. How do you walk people through that process gently to reassure them that you're really getting value when you start to pay for the service, value that is really above and beyond what you would get with a free account?
Yeah. I mean, as you know, for pitching, obviously being a user and being on kind of both sides of it, I mean, one, timing is everything. So getting in front of journalists quickly, efficiently, that's really important. That's part of the paid offering. You do get a faster ability to go in and pitch opportunities. You also get more credits. So there is a limitation in your free account on the number of times that you can pitch each and every month, where in your paid account, there's no limit there. You can go in, you can unlock, and you can pitch journalists faster and more frequently. So sometimes it's a numbers game. It's like building up that reputation, getting comfortable, pitching 5, 6, 7 times per month. We see that most people average like a 30% response rate. And I think that's well above what you would see in industry average. If you were cold pitching, if you were, emailing somebody directly, it's well above that. So people kind of have to remember that, like, there is a little bit of like a curve there to like learning. It's also a curve there to getting your profile, performing really well, getting your name very recognized across journalists and the platform. So I think that's a piece of moving into the paid account, or playing into it. The other piece is the education piece. I think that's where my team comes in to be a very big resource, because there's a ton of things that not everybody went to school to be in public relations. So they don't know that, hey, even if a journalist doesn't respond to you, that doesn't mean that you weren't featured in a story. So how do you track yourself to know, oh, I was featured in an article, I was unaware? Or how do I know what my pitches should look like? I've never sent a pitch before. Do I focus on answering the journalist questions, or do I just kind of send them a blurb about myself and see if they're interested? Who's here to educate me on those topics? And that's really where that paid subscription, we can give you a lot more guidance. We have, we can dedicate more resources to those users that are paying us, where we can say, like, hey, let's sit down, let's look at your profile, let's see what makes the most sense to make yourself stand out, make your pitches look a little bit better, make yourself really stand out as like a leader or a thought leader in that space. And so I think that's where people see like the biggest benefit. And also, with our pro plan, you can upgrade and downgrade as needed. So it's like, I work with a CPA where they emailed me this week. They're like, oh, tax season's over, time to re-upgrade. I've got more time to dedicate and commit to this paid account now. So, they upgrade when it's not tax season, and then hit January 1, they downgrade every single year. So it just kind of depends on your workflow and what makes the most sense for you and your timing and how much time you have to dedicate to it as well.
Yeah, one of the things, I do some coaching on my end, and really the commitment to user education all the way around. It's one of the things I love about being part of the team, is I will say to PR people when they pitch me as a journalist, look, not this time, but I do want to tell you I was intrigued, and I do want to let you know that at some point we may want to use something you have. And communicate through the platform. And it really strikes me as incredible that one of the things that's happening on Quoted that I never really saw happen on any of the other platforms is that it is about relationship building, and that it makes Quoted not only stand apart, but it builds opportunities where otherwise PR people might not see them. A lot of times it's spray and pray, or, oh, I pitched a journalist, I didn't get in, or, oh, I pitched a journalist and I got in. We're talking about a nuance that really sets what you're doing and I think the whole platform apart.
Yeah, I think I tell people that all the time where I'm like, your number one goal is to make a friend here. While they may not include you in the first story that you pitch, they're going to recognize your name. They're going to recognize that you're readily available to help them on these topics. And I think that's a huge piece that, it's like, oh, I lost. And it's like, not necessarily. You got your name out there. You got to look at your profile. You got your pitch read, and they know what topics you can contribute to. And I think that's like journalists, that's what they need, especially when there's a time crunch. Like, oh, I remember this person was really responsive. I'm going to go back to them at some point and see if they're available to help me out. Kind of building those long-term relationships. We see that every day. And I think it's great. I love to see that. I love to see that, I can just see a journalist directly messaging somebody through the platform rather than having to post an opportunity, wait for people to pitch them, and just kind of having those long-term relationships that they build out. Also, I think so many people look at a lot of journalists and they'll be like, oh, like I don't want that publication. And so many people are so like publication adverse. Sometimes they're like, it's not big enough. It's not the Wall Street Journal. I don't want it. And it's like, hey, you're not going to get in the Wall Street Journal the first time. Sorry. But it's like when you're looking at that journalist, look at where else they're writing for. Are they freelancing? Because it may be a small publication right now that you're maybe not that interested in, but they might write for a variety of other publications that are much larger, and they are in a realm or a space that you would prefer to be in. So it's like, sure, respond to this one now. It may not be your best win or your biggest publication feature. It is still really important, and it's still something where you're contributing your expertise, but also it's that long-term relationship where that person can keep you in mind when they're working on other stories in the future for different, bigger, better publications that you might be interested in too.
Yes, I want to amplify this point that you just made, is that in a marketplace, and let's imagine, for example, a stock exchange trading floor. It's like, hey, opportunity, this person, that person, whatever, and it flies very fast. And what would be the hope of not only making relationships, but, learning more? Whereas Quoted is this huge repository of information where, okay, I'm up there. You research me. You can learn all about me, all the places I've written for. You can look up my clips on the fly. You can find out the types of things I'm interested in. And it amazes me. This just happened today, right? Someone obviously did not use Quoted. They came through LinkedIn and said, Lou, I know, now get this, I know that you and I have a mutual interest in the fire safety world. So I'm reaching out to you. And I'm like, yeah, I guess if my house was on fire, I'd have that mutual interest. But I haven't written about
We all
fire
have
safety
interest.
ever. And how much easier would it have been for this person, who, by the way, was really nice, very professional, to just go unquoted, oh, Lou writes about this, this, and this. He's written for this publication, this publication, this publication. Now, of course, that person could have gone online and done a little bit of research, but it's not the same as having it all there on a shingle and saving you a ton of time in terms of learning about who the journalist is and what they're doing. So really, really glad you made that point. Now, if it's okay, Shelby, I want to take the focus back out a little bit. And here I'm really interested in your opinion based on the things that you've seen, because if this doesn't cross your transom ever in your job, I think you still have a very relevant point of view. And maybe it does, right? Is that Quoted has this unusual triangle where you've got the media users, the reporters, the editors, you've got the sources, and you've got the PR people. These are very different constituencies. What's the art, if there is one, and I would imagine there is, of keeping those constituencies in balance so that everyone is working well together?
Yeah, I'm not sure that there is one. I don't know. I think it's I think our biggest goal on each each group is educating each group accordingly, right? So it comes back to that user experience where it's, what's the goal of what this person in particular needs inside of Qwoted. And so the way that we communicate with a PR is going to be different than the way we communicate with John Smith, who owns his own private tractor company, right? And so it's, he's coming in, he knows nothing about PR, and he's just been told by probably a marketing agency that he hired that he needs to get out into the media more and he needs to get more links. And so we're trying to educate him on his own presence and how he does that. Where PRs, we're trying to educate them on, hey, this is the value in pitching inside of the tool. This is the value in putting your clients in here so that journalists know that your clients are available and that you're representing them here. And then on the other side for journalists, it's educating them about, a lot of misinformation, a lot of AI, a lot of how can we help you validate and credentialize the sources that you're working with. And so, that's really what we want journalists using us for is like, of course, we want you to find sources quick and easy, but we also want you to find sources that you feel comfortable working with, that it's a real person, that the content that you're being provided is like the creme de la creme and it's great. We found you a great resource. We found you something where you're not going to go submit this story to your editor and they're going to be like, where did you find this source from? I'm not sure this person's real. And so it just, however we can educate people to find each thing that they're looking for is really kind of breaking it down. So it's funny when you look at it from an outside perspective, right? It's like, oh, hey, yeah, it's Qwoted, it does this. And it's like, there's so many different facets of how we have to treat every single different user in here because they all have different things that they need and different ways that they would deem success on their end. So it's kind of managing and curating their experience accordingly.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned AI because this has been on my mind quite a bit, right? We've got this concept of modern day customer service merging with the world of AI tools. And we all know this by now, but people don't always think past the surface of it, right? There's good uses for AI and potentially bad uses for AI. We've got a really unique perspective on Qwoted. You have a more informed perspective than I do. Tell us about the kinds of things you see and what you would want to bring to the attention of people listening to the podcast based on your experience.
Yeah, I think it's tough, right? Like I think so badly. Sometimes I get so frustrated. I'm just like, AI is so bad, but it's like, it's not, right? I use it every day. Everybody should be using it every day. It's such a powerful, great tool. It helps make your life a lot more efficient. But there's people who, of course, just like in anything, have taken that and sort of ruined it for some people, like journalists, where you do have to be a lot more skeptical or hesitant about what's being delivered into your inbox each and every day. And so while I think some people are using AI with really good intentions, right? Like I own my John Smith, I own my tractor store, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can answer this question. And, I have these 5 bullet points and I'm kind of jotting things down, but I'm not a great writer. And maybe I didn't summarize these correctly. So I'm going to plug this into ChatGPT and it's going to take my thoughts and it's going to just make them sound nicer. And that's great, right? Like it's going to be very grammatically correct. It's going to sound great. We've all seen the power of ChatGPT. The problem is that when you go to submit that to a journalist, they don't necessarily know, like, okay, that was your original thoughts, but this reflects as AI. So I can't use that as part of my story. And I think that's what people don't understand is like, you're also putting that journalist reputation at risk. Like if you're going to submit a story to your editor and they're running it through something and they're like, again, where did you find this expert? Where did you find this content? Or like the way that this written, a human didn't write this. So now you're risking your reputation by using content where while somebody had the best intentions, it maybe doesn't reflect that way. So I would say, when submitting content to a journalist, avoiding at all cost using AI, just because of the way that it reflects that writing, the way that it comes across. I think helping to write your bio, right? Like there's no harm in that. Like, yeah, I'm not great at writing a bio. Restructure this, shuffle it around, make it make more sense. That's great. Even a sign off or help, like, hey, ChatGPT, I'm trying to understand the template, or what would be a great template or a way to lay out a pitch to a journalist. Maybe I'm not very educated in like the format of a pitch. Use it for that. But as far as like actually having it write content, put together sentences for you, that should all be original thought. And I think that's really where we have to kind of navigate this realm. We also have to navigate it because I think there's a lot of people that come out here, they create fake personas, fake identities, and they just go through Qwoted and they're like, oh, I have an expert in this and it's a fake persona and I have the perfect answer. It's the most perfect answer you've ever seen. And it's totally AI generated. And so they're the ones out here trying to get thousands of backlinks per month, trying to rank these websites where people can't necessarily find a real person that's associated with that identity, can't really find a real brand, but they're just driving that engagement that way. So unfortunately, there are those people that are sort of ruining it for everybody. And that's where I would say, try not to touch it at all when you are contributing content, because you may appear as though you're one of these people who are trying to scam or kind of like overwork the system. So, yeah, it's interesting. Of course, Qwoted's working really hard to kick those people out or keep those people out. And that's why we have a pretty strict vetting process and verification process when we bring in new users, because we do want people who are, here with the best intentions, here just trying to promote their business and their expertise. And they're not, being drowned out by spam or junk that, journalists don't really want to see at all.
Yeah. And what you're talking about, Shelby, it's fascinating to me as a journalist, is that there is a long background of informed skepticism. There was the saying, and this is actually the saying from the City News Bureau in Chicago that dates back, I think, to the 1950s. If your mother says she loves you, check it out. You don't want to take any chances on information being wrong a bit. And here is the bugaboo with AI. You're in a rush. You want to get this information in, and the scenario you described is perfectly spot on. You own the tractor store, you're going to look up some things, you're going to get the bullet points. The odds are overwhelming that you're not going to vet it for accuracy the way a journalist does, or vet it for accuracy, period. You're in a rush, somebody's at the front of the store, you got a call to bring milk home when you're done work, and you just hit send. And the journalist looks at it and says, what's this thing about the tractor with 5 wheels? And they check it and there's no such thing. You are now off their list forever and ever, amen, as a trustworthy source. And so, yeah, I use AI, right? But the idea is to use it to start and then work it through in your own way, with your own voice, vetted for accuracy, and put out into the world. Because if this is a relationship building platform, which it is, you don't want to burn the bridge before it's built, and you want to make sure that you're looking out for the reporter or even your own PR person as much as you're looking out for yourself. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Thank you. Now,
Yeah.
as we ride off into the quoted sunset here, I'm wondering if there are other things you would like to share about exciting things in the works that you have seen, or even just to share about your day-to-day job and what you love the most about doing it. Let's take this in any direction you want to and leave it on an even more positive note than we have been throughout the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a ton of things in the works, which is always exciting. I think that's also, like I said, being a part of a tech company now and like a tech platform is so much different from being a part of like payroll PEO. Like that world doesn't necessarily change, where I feel like every single month in Qwoted is something new, right? Like technology is ever evolving, and our technology is ever evolving. So it's like we have a lot of big plans for the future, but then there's small things that happen incrementally to get us there, and those are the exciting things. Where I even look from when I started here 3 years ago. The other day I was looking at a document that I had of screenshots of Quoted and just how different it looks. And I was like, that was 3 years ago. And this seems like it's Windows 1990 that I'm looking at compared to now. I don't remember the change happening in the meantime, but it happened and now we're here and it looks so much more modern and fresh. And it's funny because it's like it all just kind of slowly happened over time, and things like that are just continuing to change. So it's I don't know if Brian will be disappointed to announce it, but if I announce it first, but obviously our new branding's going live, which is great. I think it's really fresh and it just has like a very great representation of who we are, and how we're kind of different, and just I think it's a really good, it just showcases us in a really fun, cool way, which is what we are. I think our team is really cool and fun, and we want people to feel that way when they're using the tool. We also are doing a lot of updates, and speaking of AI, they're doing a lot of cool updates integrating AI to make better matches in Quoted. So your experience
Wow.
is just more and more curated using AI, right? Like when we talk about the positives of what AI can do, the fact that it can take a look at your profile, it can take a look at the keywords that you follow, and it can take a look at your pitches, and it can give you kind of a ranking to say like, this is the best match of something that we can send you. I think that's incredible. Like it's only going to make your experience better as a user. So it's like the things that come into your inbox are best suited for you. So you're not having to scroll through a feed. You're not having to, sift through your inbox and see like, oh, they sent this to me. It wasn't a great fit. Like it's going to give you the best matches, but it's also going to be when you're in the platform itself. Like if I work in only the healthcare space, I don't want to see things about finance or fintech necessarily. So it will have my feed where it automatically gets rid of things that I'm just really not interested in at all. And I think that's exciting because sometimes I think as a user, it might be overwhelming. If I log in and I'm a veterinarian and I'm seeing healthcare and I'm seeing, fintech, I'm seeing all these things, but I'm not seeing anything related to dogs and pets and cats, like I might get scared and run off before I even get a chance to view it. So how can we kind of serve those things up to you right when you come in, so you realize that you are an expert, there is things in here for you, and you can regularly contribute, and you don't have to kind of search or work as hard for it. So I'd say those are the biggest things
Yeah,
right now.
and absolutely. And there is a word that floats around in this technology sphere, and I cover a lot of financial technology, the fintech, and it's hyper personalization. That is the promise of AI, and I just think it's exciting that we're a part of this right now. It's not machines doing work for humans so that humans get to bow out. It's machines learning what humans need and specifically what their interests are, where the best use of time is, and then catering to that. And wow, I can't wait to see it. And when the rebranding is out, Matt, Dan, Brian, if you're listening, new Quoted hat. Need it.
Yeah, you
So
want it
yeah,
in
Shelby,
grape colored.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, Shelby, you have taken time from a very busy schedule to be on the podcast today. I very much appreciate it. Speaking of personalization, you bring a lot of personality, a lot of intelligence, a lot of positivity to what you do. It's so great that you are on the team. Thanks so much for being on the Quoted Show.
Yeah, thank you, Lou. It was so good to connect.
Yeah. Shelby